hospitals, local businesses, families. These are the main targets.
And you just might be next. Hello, team. Oh, let me change this.
Hello, team. No, I don't like that either. Hello, team. That's better. What's up, team, and welcome to the YouTube section of the Cyber Ranger universe. My name is and to be transparent, I've recorded this a billion different ways. I think the best way to do it is just no edits, no cuts, just give it to you raw. So pretty much how I'm going to do this is telling y'all how I became a cybersecurity professional, giving you a little story and background on my life and what I went through. And so I would have to say it started pretty much back in 2014. I was in Air Force ROTC, junior ROTC in high schools, and I always knew I wanted to join the military. So as soon as I was eligible to even sign up and then go into the delayed entry program, I did. I think I was about 17 years old. My 18th birthday wasn't until the summer of 2016. After I graduated high school, I went to the recruiter's office. I already told him like, hey, I want to be a PJ. I want to sign up for that. I want to do that stuff. I wasn't a PC gamer. I wasn't a young prodigy that's hacking NSA, and I wasn't doing $20,000 bug bounties or anything like that. I didn't even really have an obsession with computers. I really wanted to go into the medical field. So that's why I went to the Air Force and was like, hey, I want to do pararescue. I did water polo, did swim team all throughout high school. So I knew the water phase was just going to be a breeze for me. So it was either pararescue or Navy SEAL. And I was like, yeah, let's just do that. So I go to the recruiter's office. He's like, hey, pick your top 10 jobs. And I went there with my dad. I told my dad, hey, you could pick the jobs. I already know what I'm getting. I'm getting pararescue. You're not going to stop me from it. So you could pick those 10 jobs. If pararescue doesn't work out, I'll work those jobs. So the day before I go to MEPS, my recruiter talks to me. He's like, hey, just remember why you signed up, what you're doing this for. I said, yeah, I'm doing this to just contribute to the mission however I can. He said, whatever you get and whatever you do, make sure you give it your 100%. I said, all right, roger that. So I go to MEPS, and that's where I found out that I was colorblind, red-green colorblind. And this is not common, but I have met a couple people in my lifetime who also experienced this as well. It's a form of color blindness, but a more proper term is color deficiency. So when certain colors are together, it's hard for you to distinguish between the two. When you go to MEPS, I did good on my ASVAB. I qualified for all these different jobs. I was in shape, perfect shape. And when he entered in that color blindness trade, I had all my jobs pretty much disappeared. And the only job that was really left, so that kind of kicked anything medical, got kicked out the window pretty much. And the only thing that was left were IT jobs, things where you could stare at black and white computer screens. So I still sign up, still enlist, go to basic, and after I graduated basic, I wanted to get a jump start on trying to at least learn my job because I made that promise of giving 100%. It wasn't a clear description of what a cybersecurity person was. I didn't really understand what I was going to be doing. Even the description that was on the website wasn't really clear, and there weren't really any videos of it. So when basic training is about to end, they have this thing called Airman's Week. And during Airman's Week, I'm trying to research my job as much as possible and trying to figure out what I need to do. And I had off base time, and I took that off base time to go to the library. And I guess to be an expert or good at cybersecurity, I seen online, hey, you should really study Security Plus. So I went to the library. Barnes and Nobles had one of my flight mates. His mom drove us to Barnes and Nobles. I bought the book, started studying it during Airman's Week. I didn't know what I was reading, but I was like, hey, it's probably going to make sense in the future, which later on at tech school it did. Now, a quick little disclaimer about me. I love challenges. Growing up there was a lot of people telling me that I can't do something, and my son kind of has that trait as well, where somebody tells you not to do something and you always want to test those waters and prove them wrong. And as soon as you pull up to tech school was in Keesler Air Force Base, Mississippi, super humid, but pull up to tech school. And as soon as you get off the bus, you just hear a bunch of people just saying like, hey, you're going to fail this test the first time you take it. And they're talking about Security Plus, and everybody referred to the test as the dragon. And they're like, hey, slay the dragon, slay the dragon. All the instructors are like, slay the dragon. And all the trainees are like, yeah, you're going to fail it the first time, but don't get discouraged. Like, it's a really hard test and a really difficult test and everything like that. When you got like 4 instructors saying that you'll pass it, and you got like 30 plus, fresh out of basic trainees, telling you, you're going to fail this test, I took that as a challenge. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to lock myself in this room and I'm going to get it cracking. So pretty much from November until January, I was just stone cold face, had my head in a book and just studied like crazy. And I didn't really socialize too much. I didn't really associate with too many people. I probably had like a small group of friends that were studying with me, and we were in class together, and we'd always march to and from class together. But besides that, I didn't really hang out with anybody outside of campus, or even on campus for that much. Even when I was going out to go get chow or anything like that, I'd grab my plate, go sit in a corner and just eat it by myself, go back to my dorm room and start studying again. So social life was pretty much cut off, and I was so focused on trying to pass this test and trying to understand everything and trying to prove everything wrong. And I ended up going down this rabbit hole where my brain couldn't even understand how to secure IT if I don't even know how electrical signals are like ones and zeros are being turned into data. So I started rabbit holing all the way down to how a computer is built, and how electricity turns into data and things like that. So my brain was just really working overtime and trying to piece these concepts together. But by the grace of Professor Messer and a few other resources constantly on repeat in my head, I not only was able to memorize the information, I was also able to piece together and make sense of a lot more things. Including that we also had instruction throughout tech school, not necessarily on Security Plus. Security Plus was pretty much just a self-study type thing, but we did have instruction as far as, teaching you how to do binary and teaching you the basics of IT. And a lot of that was easy for me because of my internship back in Vallejo. So the day comes for me to take the test, the Security Plus test, the Dragon, and I'm sitting there and I'm answering these questions and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I'm getting them right. I'm building these diagrams, answering these test questions, and you don't even know which ones are tests or not, but they said they're going to be towards the end. So I'm just freaking out and nerve wracking. And one guy in there, he actually had a whole panic attack and was like, this is not the answer. I don't understand. None of these answers are right. Because what gets you on those tests and what makes it so difficult is that it's not what's the right answer, it's what's the best answer. And that's what made the test so hard, because in your mind, you're thinking, okay, this would be the best answer and this makes sense, but you have to go based off CompTIA standards and what they think, and what you have to be in their type of mindset. So that also made the test difficult as well. But I remember, you needed a 750 to pass, and I'm taking this test. I went back, corrected all my answers, and I basically took that test twice. And as soon as I hit submit, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get my score, but the survey pops up. How did you like the test? And I'm like, I don't care about this. Click through the survey, and you needed a 750 to pass, and I got a 750 on the dot. My heart dropped, and I could not stop thinking about how I went back and changed one answer, and that one answer, I don't know if it made me or broke me. I still till this day don't know, but I stopped thinking about it, took my score, took my printout, and I ran with it. Gave the score to my instructor. They're like, all right, cool. And I think this was, and I remember this specifically. It was January 30th, and I needed to be out of my dorm room by January 31st. Now, here's the weird thing is that it's not guaranteed that you're going to pass the test. If you didn't pass the test, you would have to get like the commander would have to get involved, and they would have to write for you to get a retake based on your score. And he would have to vouch for you saying, yeah, he could probably pass it next time. It messes up a lot of different things. So as soon as I passed my test, I immediately had to pack up a whole bunch of stuff because I didn't really have too much confidence, but I immediately had to go back to my dorm room, pack up a whole bunch of stuff, throw away a bunch of stuff, clean everything up extremely fast, figure out how to take a taxi, get to the airport, get to my destination. And it was a lot of growing up at that one time. I've never taken a taxi before. I didn't have no Uber app or anything or Lyft app on my phone or nothing like that. I don't even think it was out at that time. But it was a very hectic night trying to get everything together. And I remember I wanted to ship my stuff to my base, but the post office had closed at that time. So I literally had to lug this giant case. Luckily it had wheels, but I had to lug this giant case that barely fit in the trunk of this taxi all throughout the airport and haul it all the way to Edwards Air Force Base, which was my first duty station. Now, at this time, luckily, I was still in contact with my sponsor that was supposed to be at Edwards, but my sponsor wasn't the one that picked me up. It was another person that picked me up. That's the homie. And I remember distinctly right after he had picked me up, I think it was him and I'll probably bleep out their names. I probably shouldn't even say that. But they had picked me up from the airport and took me straight to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffle. Then we went straight to the mall and bought like some new clothes because I just had on, I had the most basic stuff that you took with you to basic. I wasn't, like I said, I locked myself in my room. I wasn't exploring or doing anything. Bought some new clothes, first go watch, pretty much just splurging because I had all this money from basic and tech school that I never spent on anything. So I was a young 18-year-old with some hefty pockets, which a lot of military people will understand. Like you are in basic, you are in tech school, you can't really go out, you really don't have that many privileges. And as soon as they let you out into the world, you have pockets full of money and you're still, you just don't know what to do with it. So you're just getting everything that you could possibly see because you're like, I can afford it. But anyway, not to get off track. I get to my first duty station and now I have to even learn even more about my job. So the sucky part is that pretty much everything that I learned in Security Plus, I had to forcefully apply it to my job, meaning that Security Plus wasn't too much about policy. And that's what my job was pretty much about, was going through policy and enforcing cybersecurity policy. And back then there was this thing called career development courses, and I was so keen on trying to finish those as quick as possible. We had on-the-job training I wanted to finish as quick as possible. Any challenge or any type of thing that didn't have a time requirement. So usually in the military, you have a time and grade requirement or a time and rank requirement. And anything that didn't have a time requirement, I said, okay, I can burn through this like it's nothing. So if I didn't have that limitation there and time wasn't a factor, I was pretty much burning through everything that I could. We had a few people who were CISSP certified in our shop, and I'm asking them what they do to do it. How can I get to that level? They were like, yeah, you got to have at least, I think it was 5 or 7 years in the career field before you can even take it. So I was like, dang, there goes that time requirement again. Fact check. You can take it, you can get certified in it, but it's like an associate certification. I don't know the actual terminology, but you pretty much have passed the test and you're just waiting to meet your time requirement. So when you hit your time requirement, you automatically become a CISSP certified. But at that time, I didn't know that. So I was just waiting out the time. So I'm like, okay, can't do that. So what can I do in the meantime? And that's where school comes up. So after that, I was like, you know what? Let me just focus on school and let me try and get my degree. So in the military or in the Air Force, I have this thing called a CCAF degree, and CCAF is Community College of the Air Force. And that degree is, it looks good in the Air Force's eyes because it tells them, hey, you're using your Air Force resources. I don't think it really means too much on the outside, but it's supposed to be equivalent to an associate's degree. So I just started taking classes for that because they were offering them for free on base. And you were able to do these things called CLEP. So pretty much you just test out of math and science and things like that. And it's super easy. They have library books, read it, memorize it, take a test on it, pass it. So I was able to do that with calculus, biology, and that was able to get me close to getting my CCAF. So while I'm taking these classes, life happens, right? I got married to my beautiful wife of 8 years, and we had our first son. I was young and my brain was just all over the place of trying to figure out how I'm going to do school, how I'm going to do this. And a part of me still wanted to see if I could cross train into being a PJ. So fast forward to December 2020 and I get deployed to Kuwait, and this is around when COVID is at its peak. Nobody knows what's going on. Everybody's getting these random shots and they're discussing whether the shots should be mandatory or whether the vaccine's going to get approved or whatnot. So I get deployed to Kuwait, Camp Arifshan, to this Special Operations Joint Task Force unit as a augmentee for comm. And this was the most life-changing experience and life-changing deployment that I ever had for a multitude of reasons, but I will keep it on the topic of IT. While I was there, I got really serious about my education and my certifications and things like that. I was able to knock out my cybersecurity analyst cert, got cybersecurity analytics security professional, where I just went straight into working on my bachelor's degree because I found out I didn't need an associate's to apply for my bachelor's. So I applied for my bachelor's, went to WGU, got my bachelor's, went back and got my associate's, came home, and then I got my master's degree. After I got my master's, I was dealing with a lot of issues from deployment, got into a lot of spats with leadership. I pretty much just couldn't handle being in the Air Force anymore. It just wasn't what I signed up for. It wasn't, what I had imagined it to be like. I guess the best way that I could put it is that being deployed in an environment where everything is high speed, high pace, you can directly see the results of your actions right then and there, to moving to an environment where people are getting on you for wearing a jacket, wearing your uniform a little bit improperly was, it just wasn't what I had signed up for. So nothing against the Air Force, nothing against the military, but pretty much it's either get with the program or get out. And I just decided to get out. It just wasn't for me. I made an effort to try and get into Ranger School, and I'll make another video about that. So before I actually made the decision to get out, I was working at the NSA as an incident handler, and that was a very eye-opening job as well into how important cybersecurity is. So I guess the best thing about working there was that everything was on the watch floor. So if you wanted to move around and do anything, you could. So I wasn't really limited by my job. If I wanted to go, look at the SIEM tool, or if I wanted to go look at, what the malware analysts are looking at, or if I wanted to go look anywhere in the SOC, I could. And everybody was so willing and forthcoming with the knowledge that they had. And I'm so glad that I was able to work there, because that was probably what increased my wealth of knowledge tenfold. And I'm so grateful for the mentors and everybody that I had over there. Even to this day, I will credit NSA 100% for the reason why I have the knowledge that I have today. Working there was probably the best experience of my life. And I highly recommend that if you're ever able to work cybersecurity for either the NSA or the CIA or some type of government agency, you 100% should do it, especially if you can get on the watch floor or a SOC at one of these agencies. that is the hub of where you will find so many smart people with so much information and so much knowledge that you'll just be overwhelmed with it and not even know what to do with it. And even though it doesn't make sense right then and there, it's going to make sense later on in your career if you decide to move on to other things. So after getting out of the military, applied around for a bunch of different jobs. I got accepted at this one job where I get to go to a bunch of different government agencies and military units and things like that and inspect their cybersecurity programs. And I'm pretty much a senior consultant for a bunch of different military units and organizations and agencies and things like that. And I have my own business, a Cyber Ranger business, where we pretty much do the same thing, but for hospitals, small businesses, and family homes, because I believe that everybody should know how to protect themselves in this wild, wild west of the cyber world. And the wild, wild west needs rangers, so it's the name Cyber Ranger. Which brings me to why I created this channel. Because Cyber Rangers are the people that not only know how to defend themselves, they are leaders in the cyber environment. So this channel is my way of giving that information to a wide population of people, as broad as I can, as well as doubling as my method of contributing to the cybersecurity community myself.
And there it is. I pretty much got thrown into the career field. I embraced it, and currently I am taking my doctorate classes and studying for OSCP. So the grind never stops. Continue learning, continue striving to become better. So until next time, be safe and stay dangerous, Rangers.
Said she want a vacation to the Bahamas, Gucci, Louis, and Prada. She rockin' it like a model. Know I'm gon' spend them dollars. Alright, holla, lil' mama, know you need that. I say now, holla, lil' mama, know you